Indy 500 winners. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring them out right now. Let's see who comes out first. We've got Josef Newgarden, the defending Indy 500 winner. We've got Scott Dixon, three-time Rolex 24 winner. We got Marcus Ericsson, and you got everybody's favorite Alexander Rossi. They were like so excited. They were like, Alexander Rossi's gonna be here. He's gonna be funny. He's gonna be making jokes. I was like, I hope so. So let's hear it one more time. We got taking off the jacket right now from Penske Porsche. We have your defending Indy 500 winner, Josef Newgarden. How you doing, Josef?
Hello. Are we on?
Yeah, you're on.
All right. Good afternoon. It's great to be here. Yeah, feeling really good. It's been a little brisk today, but good sunny day, which is great. So just awesome to be here. You know, last year was the first time I got to experience the Rolex 24, and what a blast. I've been wanting to do this race a long time, so just really honored to be here, and you know, with these great guys next to me too. It's pretty cool to be able to share, you know, the track. We obviously race together all year long in IndyCar, and you know, great to represent down here in IMSA as well.
Do you, because you guys are from Indy, I know when you guys are racing in Indy, it's a big competition, but then when you guys come here, are you like, hey, one of us, we're good. As long as one of us win the race, we're good. We're all teaming. Or is that still competition with you guys?
Definitely not for Joseph. I mean, I do think if one of us wins, it's great. You know, but it's tough. I mean, I think nowadays, I don't know, I'll let the other guys speak to it, but there's so many good drivers across the world. I mean, it doesn't matter what discipline you're in. I think there's just excellent talent wherever you look, and there's no shortage of it here. So it's very difficult to come in to this environment and be successful. Obviously, we rely a lot on our teammates and our teams, but we like to show up and do a great job. Obviously, we're representing our series too, so you know, it's just fun because you get to compete with all these different disciplines and people from around the world. And I think someone likened it to the Olympics when I was getting interviewed the other day, and I think that's sort of true. It sort of is like the racing Olympics for us.
It's like an all-star game, you know, look at all the guys. Now, I'm going to tell you what, it's kind of rarefied air to be this next gentleman right here. When you think about people who have won the Indianapolis 500 and won the Rolex 24, I mean, you're talking about drivers like Foyt, Andretti, Ray Hall, and you're also talking about Scott Dixon. Scott, I mean, it must be pretty special to be, you know, in that area. I mean, it's success in the Indy 500, but you've had quite a bit of success here at the Rolex 24 as well.
Yeah, it's good afternoon, everyone. Hope it's good to see everybody staying dry for a change. Camping out here, I feel like every year you all come in, it's raining, so that was good to see. But it's fantastic to come here, as Josef touched on. You know, it's a great way to kick off the season. It's a fun race to kick off the season. It's a little bit different from what we're generally used to. We're sharing the car with other drivers, but yeah, to win this race is huge. You know, the competition these days is through the roof. I think the recent change that we've seen with GTP and the hybrid, you know, kind of era and the manufacturers that have come in has really spiced it up. And the GT category this year is looking tougher than ever with almost 40 cars. So you're definitely going to see one hell of a race, and that's what makes it so cool for us is that it's so tough to win.
With the GTPs and all the manufacturers, it does not get easier to get that fourth win, am I correct?
Definitely not. You know, this year I think a little more so. You know, last year was actually close. I think when we saw the BMW kind of have a hybrid issue within maybe the first hour or two, we're like, oh, here we go, it's going to start. Maybe another P2 car's going to win the race. But to go on, and I think with an hour to go, there was 4 or 5 cars on the same lead lap and within like 10 or 15 seconds. So this year with the cars a lot more reliable, you know, people feel like they're a lot more prepared. It's going to be super tight, super close, and one of the toughest ones to win.
Now I'm going to tell you what, it's amazing for me to, you know, you watch this 24 hours each and every year, and you go, 24 hours, these guys are running for 24 hours, there's going to be one driver that's just going to, you know, he's going to be free, 2 laps, and every year it comes down to right there at the end of the race. Does it amaze you too that you're like, I'm gonna go take a nap real quick. When I wake up, we're gonna be 4 laps ahead, and it's never like that. I mean, isn't it crazy how 24 hours and you're still neck and neck?
It's I think it's a testament to what it takes to win this race. And I've been in situations where you kind of maybe got out of the car, it's been going well. You or your teammate might be leading. You go take a nap, maybe for 2 or 3 hours, and you wake up and you're like 6 laps down or 10 laps down. That's the worst feeling ever, And especially with the Cadillac, you wake up and you make sure you can hear that big V8 engine going because it's like over the top of everything else. But yeah, that's the sad moment, I think, is when you wake up maybe in the early hours of the morning and you've lost some laps. But you're never out of it until you're totally out of it. And we've come from deficits before to win these races. But each year, I think it gets harder with the reliability and just the competitiveness of this series. So it's never easy.
Now we move on down, driving that beautiful Acura for Kanika Minolta, another, and I'm going to say this a lot, another Indy 500 winner. Also, former F1 driver Marcus Ericsson. Marcus, it's so nice to see you here. And when it comes to the history of Wayne Taylor Racing, you got a pretty good car out there. It's got some history of winning this race.
Yeah, hi everyone. Glad to be here. Like you said, being here with Wayne Taylor Racing and Acura, it's definitely very special. It's definitely one of the best teams to be with, and my teammates that I'm here with as well is super talented. And like Scott and Joseph said, the field this year is it's incredible. It's the best of the best in all categories really. So yeah, it's cool to be here. It's fun. It's fun to get out of these cars. The cars now, the GTP cars, are super impressive. I call it a spaceship. It's more a spaceship than a race car. It's so cool with all the technology that goes into them and these hybrid units that we use. It's really cool to be part of that.
Now, this is your second time. Are you able to take any of the experience that you had the first time you drove in the Rolex 24 here at Daytona and use it, or is the car just different and it's kind of a whole new thing to learn?
The car is definitely different. But that experience 2 years ago really helped me a lot to sort of start on a higher level, I felt like. So straight away yesterday on my first couple of laps, I was just more comfortable in traffic, and so that it helps. But then, like you said, the car now is very different to drive. But yeah, it's still a learning process for me. It's my second ever endurance race, and with the traffic, it's definitely very different to IndyCar. But last time I had Scott and the Ganassi guys to learn from, and this time I have all the Wayne Taylor teammates that I can speak to and ask questions and look at onboards and data, and that helps a lot to speed up that process. It's gonna be a fun challenge next weekend and a fun race.
Now, you have a lot of great teammates, obviously Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, Brendan Hartley. Now, who out of the three are you able to kind of learn the most from? Who is able to be, because I know Philippe is great, I know Ricky's great. Is there anybody that kind of, helped you a little bit about the feel of the car?
It's hard to pick one of them. I think they're all very open and very, they would ask any question you would come up with. So it's hard to pick one of them, and luckily for me, all three of them is like three of the best sports car drivers in the world. So it's a great position to be in, to be able to see them work closely and how they drive and everything. So I'm definitely learning a lot from them.
Now we move on, last but certainly not least, always a crowd favorite, the winner of the 100th Indianapolis 500. As a rookie, please welcome Alexander Rossi to the stage. Now, it's a little bit different for you because you're going to be doing the GTD Pro class. So you're going to have to, maybe deal with, some drivers sliding on up, and maybe you can kind of use some of their drafting and use some of the picks up there. So GTD Pro, obviously, it's one of the tightest battles here. I mean, I remember a GTD Pro battle here just a few years ago that the last hour was tooth and nail. They were banging into each other. I'm sure you remember it. Tell us how fun it is to run for one of the most iconic teams in FAF, but also that FAF is now moved on over to McLaren.
Yeah, first of all, it's great to be back. I did miss it last year. You know, I was here 19 through 22, and then didn't get to do it last year, and so to be back this year is fantastic. It's one of the highlight races of any racing driver's career. So you guys are part of what makes that happen. So thank you very much. It's certainly different being in a GT car, but what's phenomenal is, you know, the evolution of a GT car, in my opinion, over the past 10 years it's pretty amazing, to the point where, you know, in a lot of the performance metrics, you know, it performs as well as a prototype, which is pretty impressive and kind of weird to get your head around. But then certainly with, you know, what we've seen with IMSA over the past couple of years, the introduction of more manufacturers, that's obviously clear in GTP, but is also translated to GTD as well, and it's incredibly difficult to get a leg up on anyone, just because there's so many good teams, manufacturers, drivers. So it's been a bit of a learning curve for the whole organization. So back about this car in December, we didn't get to do the test like most of the other cars. So yesterday and today, it's been just learning all new systems and a completely new environment for the guys to work on. And at the same time, they're having to work with 4 drivers that they've never had before. So considering all that, it's gone very well, and you know, we're just taking it each session at a time. And the McLaren 720 is in a good window, and we look forward to what's to come.
We have so many amazing questions that I want to get to them because we've got tons and tons of questions. I have a question from Neil from Spring Hill, Florida. Neil, where are you right there? Neil has a question for all the drivers, starting with Josef. What driver did you idolize growing up?
Scott Dixon, for sure. You know, he was being a young toddler watching Scott. Just it's like, man, one day that'd be. I can't believe I'm driving next to him now. He's still here. Now, actually. No, you know, for me, I watched everything. I really liked. Dan Weldon was one of my favorites in IndyCar, just because Dan came out to the kart track a lot where I grew up racing in Newcastle, Indiana. He was just kind of one of the other racers. You just knew him as Dan. So he was always someone I pulled for. And then in NASCAR, I liked Jimmy Johnson. He was like kind of the guy I rooted for. And then in Formula One, I always liked Fernando Alonso. So when I was younger, those were like kind of the ones I looked up to.
Now, when Fernando Alonso raced in the Indy 500, was it kind of like, oh, racing Fernando?
Yeah, it was a very cool experience. You know, I never thought I'd be racing professionally one day. So, you know, looking back at it as a kid and idolizing different qualities from these different racers, you know, then to be there and running against them was very cool. You just never imagine it's going to actually happen one day.
Awesome, Scott.
Well, as Joseph pointed out, I'm from a different generation. So, you know, I don't know, like Kenny Smith was a New Zealand legend for me, and a guy I looked up to and helped me in my junior career for a long time. And then I think, you know, my era was, you know, kind of Senna and Schumacher. Formula One was huge, and then for IndyCar, you know, I think it was, you know, the likes of AJ, you know, just who he was as a person, and you know, seeing the antics that he had through his years and what he achieved. So yeah, I kind of think it varies a little bit, but yeah, that's definitely mine.
Now, watching and growing up, and like we all did, and seeing AJ Foyt's antics, and then actually getting a chance to know him in real life, how surreal was that?
I think we're very lucky, you know, to most weekends to have the likes of AJ and Mario still there, you know, and they're, you know, the 2 biggest advocates of the sport, and to look back and to see that they even survived that era is kind of crazy too, you know. But yeah, Mario's just a very likable person, great storyteller, and huge for our sport and pushes it to the limit. So yeah, we're extremely lucky.
Perfect. Marcus?
I would say Michael Schumacher. Growing up, I remember watching TV, watching Formula One, and seeing him winning in that red Ferrari was very special, and it's a strong memory that I still have. But also Kenny Brack, fellow Swede who was racing here in America, and you know, very successful in IndyCar and won Indy 500 in I think '99. And then later on, I got the chance to work with Kenny for many years. So I would say, yeah, probably that too was big inspirations for me in my career, and you know, also led me here to America and IndyCar racing.
And Alex?
Mika Hakkinen and Tony Stewart.
That's a good one. Now, we have a question. William, he's 6 years old. Where you at, William? Wave, yeah, there he is. Stand on up there, William. Perfect, there he is. He has a question. What is the most fun race car to drive for all of you guys? Most fun you've ever had? Might not be the one you're driving currently right now, but the most fun that you ever ran. Kind of the slick tracks and the go-karts.
Karting is definitely, that's not a race car. Well, I mean, you can consider a race car. I think karting is so pure. You know, I think back to when I first started karting, and it's some of the most fun you have in racing because it's just pure racing. But you know, the current running Indy car is great. It's a race car that you can push to the limit nonstop. So I've always enjoyed that.
Scott?
Yeah, I think your bang for your buck, a go-kart's pretty tough to beat. You know, any race car is fun to drive. Like, you know, there's no doubt about that. Plus, you don't typically own them. They're somebody else's cars, and if you crash them, it's not a bad thing as well. But yeah, any race car. Like, I've been lucky enough to drive some crazy cars and have enjoyed all of them. They're all very difficult to drive and difficult in their own way. But yeah, any race car.
I know a lot of people are going to ask this, Marcus, the difference between, and Alex, you can answer this too, the difference between, how's the feel from a Formula One versus an Indy car?
Very different. You know, Formula One these days has a lot of downforce, a lot of grip, a lot of technology. So it's IndyCar for me is more old school, more pure racing in a way, and it's a very different way of driving those cars. And for me, that enjoyment you get from racing an IndyCar, especially the races when it's so close and so many passes, I think that's it's really hard to beat. So yeah, I've been lucky to got the chance to do both Formula One and IndyCar, and I've enjoyed both categories very much, but in very different ways.
Alex, I'm going to switch it up for you. Is there a car that you didn't get a chance to drive, a type of car you didn't get a chance to drive that you would actually like to drive sometime in the future?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, I think I got to test the V8 F1 cars. The V10s would have been a whole other level. But the biggest one that was a little disappointing was, so McLaren has a pretty amazing heritage collection, and there's this event out at Sonoma every year called the Velocity Invitational. And McLaren has 60 cars that the group still owns and are race ready. And I was there for a day this past November and had to leave early to go to a friend's wedding, and didn't get the chance to drive Senna's F1 car that my teammates got to drive, so that was a little frustrating. And then Mika Hakkinen's F1 car. So I'm pretty lucky in the environment that I'm in that I might get to tick a couple of those boxes next year.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see it happen. We have a question from Emery, who's 8. Where are you, Emery? Right there, red head, wave to the drivers there, perfect. The question is, and she's from Ponte Verde, Florida. Question is, what's it, and I'm sure everybody has this question, what's it feel like to be on the bank? The bank at Daytona, what's it feel like? I'm Scott, you have tons of experience up there. What's it feel like? Does it feel like you're sideways? Does it feel like you're falling down?
I don't know, it doesn't feel like much, to be honest. Like the loading's kind of high. The weird thing for drivers, I think, is when you actually go out there and try to walk the banking. That's really weird. Like when you're going in the car, it doesn't seem like it's as much banking, and then you're going through it quite quickly. But a couple of times, in a rental car, you go out there and then you open the door and it's like the door wants to fly off. And you try to walk up it, it's pretty tough. But yeah, I don't know, there's not a whole...
I think the biggest thing that's hard is visually, because you're obviously like that, so you're kind of looking out the right upper corner of the windshield, which is not normal. But other than that, yeah, like the sensation, you don't really realize that you're doing anything abnormal.
I think the Indy car's a lot different, right? Like say Iowa, like the way that you get into the corner and the loading that you get, or Texas, the vertical that you get is huge. You feel that a lot. That one's going a lot faster than Indy cars.
We have a question from Cody in Chicago. Cody, where you at? Cody's right there. The hybrid in Indy, is it going to make passing easier for the 500 or tougher? Or is it a question mark?
You should answer this one.
The defending champion.
I don't know. You know, it's a good question. I think we're all in a state where we're trying to understand, you know, how to maximize this new system that's going to be coming online. We've tested it a bit between us. There's still development that's happening up to this point, and because of that, I think they're still even finalizing exactly the way we're going to use the system. We've tested a lot of different options for how you'll deploy it, how you'll regen it, et cetera, and you know, the capacity of the unit and all that. I guess the short answer is I don't know yet. I don't know exactly how much it's going to change until we get a full pack out there in a race. It's definitely going to be different. You know, it's going to be one of those challenges. Right now, it's coming online middle of the year, and so we're all having to account for it. And the racing will for sure change. That challenge will hit everybody, and we'll have to make the most of it to finish the season. So I don't know. It will be different. I just couldn't tell you exactly how different it's going to be yet.
See, you gotta stay tuned. You gotta stay tuned. We got a question from Jackson. He's 12 from Port St. Lucie, Florida. Where are you, Jackson? Jackson, right there. Perfect, Jackson. Quick, going around the room. What's the fastest? Starting with Alex. What's the fastest you've ever been in any race car?
I don't know. I mean, it would have to be at Indy. High 230s would be my guess.
No, you probably hit 242, 243, at least something.
245s maybe.
Josef knows some minutes ahead about it.
When you're going that quick, Alex.
I think I was 244.
That makes
when you're going that quick, I mean, does time stand still? Does it just seem like everything, does it slow?
Yeah.
I know it sounds weird, but does it slow down a little bit, or does it feel like things are racing by me?
It's a fair question. I think it's amazing how the human mind kind of adapts to it, because certainly when you've been away from the speedway, the first run, so 4 to 6 laps, feels very fast. And then the subsequent runs, it's kind of back to normal, and that sensation goes away a little bit. Now, obviously, as you go through the month of May and you get through qualifying, it's amazing how exponentially harder it is and how much faster it feels. Kind of the 221 to 229 range is all very similar from a feeling standpoint, and then as soon as you go over 230, that extra mile an hour that has to keep coming in qualifying is like much harder. So it's very weird that 230 to 231 feels like a bigger step than 219 to 230, just because the car is operating that much further closer to its limit.
Is there times when you're in a car and you're like, this is the edge. Like I'm at the edge. I'm at the edge right now.
Yeah, right before you crash. That's the only time I feel like it feels really fast. Is right about when you're about to hit the wall.
In the qualifying, it's pretty much on the edge. That's in the qualifying, those 4 laps, I think, is the 4 most intense laps of the season every year, and it's a very unique experience. I don't know. It's hard to describe that. It's the adrenaline you have and the focus. And yeah, you want to be on the edge. I mean, you want to be as close as possible to crashing without crashing. That's pretty much what you want on a qualifying.
Now, with that said, is Indy 500 qualifying actually a little bit more intimidating than the actual race itself?
I would say in some ways, yeah. I think the qualifying it's just a very different thing, because it's you out there on the track on your own, and you just need to perform, and then you know your car is really on the limit, and the race is a very different mindset. It's such a long race. You go in, you get into your rhythm, and then you know you plan your race. You have different key aspects of the race, but it's, at least for me, you know, I feel like the intensity of a quali run is very, yeah, this is more than the race.
Now, before we leave, we just got a couple more questions we're going to get to. One of the first people that waited in line, they were there forever. Her name is Sophia. She's right in the front right there, and she has a great question. This is to any and all drivers. Do you have any suggestions or advice for people who want to get into motorsports for engineering?
Literally apply, because teams are desperate for people, which is
it's a good problem to have, but also a very difficult problem to have. You know, the sport and series across the United States are growing, car counts are going up, and there's a huge amount of opportunities for engineers, mechanics, anyone. So anyone that's interested, this is your time. You know how we hear about like pilot shortage, and if you want to be a pilot, now's the time. Like if you want to be a race car engineer, the next couple of years are perfect for it.
Yeah, we have a program at Chicken SRS with PNC actually, that's Women in Motorsports, and we have an internship every year, so apply, as Rossi said.
You might be on the team. Now, I think one more question, right? 3 minutes. Well, we might even get another question, but this 5-year-old little guy right there, his name is Oliver, he has a question. What is your favorite part about being a race car driver? Joseph?
Well, I think simplistically, I love the speed of racing. You know, when I was 5 years old, I watched race cars, and they were kind of scary looking to me, and I loved that. I was kind of drawn to the scary part of it. I liked that a car was going really fast, and talk about being on the edge. They looked like they were on the edge a lot of times when I was watching, and it's still my favorite thing. You know, I just like driving a race car to the limit, and even pushing over the limit slightly, but not too much to wreck. You know, that's the enjoyment of it. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but I think simplistically, that's the most enjoyable part.
Perfect. Anybody else, real quick?
I think, yeah, the feeling is hard to beat. But I also love the environment, the people that you get to work with, the mindset, you know, the competition. It's pretty cutthroat, and I enjoy that. It's a lot of fun.
Perfect. We got one more question we can get on in there. Leanna, am I saying that right? Leanna, she's right there. She's in the purple.
Leanna.
She's from Pontevedra, Florida. And she's doing this to try to make us feel a little bit warmer during these mornings. She says, don't think about the cold. Ask the drivers about what is the hottest they've ever been in a car. And I know you guys have been in some. Is there a time, Scott, or anybody, were you in a car and you were like, this is brutal? And what track was it at? Do you guys remember?
I think for me it was maybe a race in Australia and like supercars and V8s down there. It's a big series. Yeah, and I was never used to it. They're like, do you want to wear a cool suit? Because some of the drivers you can wear like a cool suit. It's a thing, and it kind of keeps your body cold. And I was like, nah, I'll be fine. Like 5 laps in, I'm like, I thought my head was going to explode. I was bright red, pretty much purple. So yeah, that wasn't fun.
I would say Singapore, Formula 1 in Singapore. That was pretty. The humidity in combination with the heat there was, after 10 laps you were overheating, and then that race is the longest race in Formula 1 as well because of the average speed. So it goes for usually 2 hours. So yeah, those 2 hours is pure pain actually.
And I know it looked like, Alex, you had something you were thinking about. Was there a certain track that it was just brutal?
Yeah, it was 2020 Indy GP in July. We introduced the aero screen. We hadn't quite figured out the cooling for it yet, and my gearbox blew up on like lap 18. That's the first time I've ever not been mad. My car broke. I was already pretty hot, and there was like 80 laps to go. Just won the 50s too, so it's hard to choose.
All right. Well, for all the people out here that we didn't get to their questions, I'm so sorry. But any last words? Let's just go around the horn real quick. Last words, Joseph. What are we thinking? What are we thinking for qualifying? What are we looking out for? Who's the? Are you going to qualify? Are you going to be the guy?
Definitely not.
Oh, okay.
I was not given the privilege to qualify. I've got excellent teammates. I don't know. I think Felipe's going to qualify. Yeah, we're going to see. It looks very close.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, it's a little deceiving when you look at the times because everybody's on a different program, you know, different fuel, different tires. But I think it'll be quite close, and the race will be very close, as Scott alluded to. So I'm excited. You know, I think Porsche Penske Motorsports has done a lot of preparation. I think we're in a good spot to challenge. But you know, look, anything can happen in this race. I think you got to be in it at the end to win. There's no doubt. But you know, it's like Indianapolis. It doesn't matter if you should be the winner, or it doesn't matter if you have the fastest car in the day. It doesn't guarantee you a victory. You gotta see it all the way through the checkered flag. So I'm excited to put in the work next weekend.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Let's hear it one more time. Josef Newgarden, Scott Dixon, Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Rossi. Give me a round of applause for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to see these drivers out there on the track for qualifying tomorrow. On behalf of everybody here at IMSA and the 20 International Speedway, thank you so much. Thank you for the great questions. And we really had a blast. So,